back, guys, to the Dom and Nate Show. I'm Dom.
Nate. Today we're going to be doing a quick Q&A. We had some listener questions come in, so let's fire away.
All right, let's get right into this. Should we start with the hard ones or the easier ones? Let's see. Here's one to lead it off. How hard is it to follow your program, either of us? Am I going to be worn out after a month in the dieting regimen? You can lead it off.
All right. So obviously I work both ways with a lot of people. Work on a macro plan, obviously with an approved foods list, as well as a diet plan for some. For the most part, to follow the program, it's plain cut and dry, to be honest. It goes through all your macronutrient breakdown. Everything comes into play. The thing is if you're getting bored, you need to talk to your coach about it, because we can easily swap foods here or there. I know Dom gives a ton of variations on what you can do. 120 grams of chicken compared to 100 grams of a lean flank steak, so on and so forth. So those are things that you need to have a discussion with. It's not let's hurry up and let's add things without the knowledge, because then we don't know what's going on. Ultimately, we can make it as fun as possible, but you have to be very, I don't want to say compliant, but you need to be an open book when discussing things.
Yeah, I think, so how hard is it to follow? Am I going to be worn out in a month? I think that has to do too with the mentality coming into it. If you're coming into it thinking like, oh man, in a month I'll probably be sick of this, you're going to be sick of it just because you came in like with that mentality. I don't do a lot of macro coaching. I do all meal plan stuff. I just feel like it works better and it lets me control a little bit more of what the client's doing. So if that's something that's new to you, yeah, it's going to be hard and you might get burned out, but coming into it, if you don't have the mentality to accept the new change, you're going to get bored and burned out pretty fast. Some of you, it might be your first time ever dieting and ever following anything. Don't think that over the course of 2-3 weeks in the beginning, your body's just going to adapt magically all of a sudden and you're going to get used to it. I think that's one big thing a lot of people don't realize is like, oh, I've been eating whatever I wanted for 2 years, and then I decided to sign up for a 12-week program, and I'm going to lose every pound I put on. No, you're not. You're not.
Shelby Starn says, your whole life has been a cheat meal up to now. You don't need one now.
Oh, yeah, that's the best when he posts that. So, like, years and years of bad decision-making, poor decision-making, whatever you want to call it, you're not going to undo it in 12 weeks. It's going to take a lot more time. So coming into it, like you said, as an open book, open-minded, these are a lot of things that you have to accept. And then, like, one thing I hate is, like, the things on Instagram. Like, just because a graph looks pretty doesn't mean the information is right. And then, like, I'll get people all the time that'll be like, well, I need to lower my calories faster. No, you don't. You're being impatient. You haven't been dieting for years. You have no idea what your body's like going through right now. So I think coming into it with an open mind, don't come into it thinking like, oh, this is going to suck. Because if you're like that, it's going to suck. I always tell people, don't look into it like you're about to start a diet. You're just eating. Like, it's food.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. That's all it really comes down to. All right. Thoughts on keto?
I think there's a place for it. I think too many people jump the gun on wanting to use it because so-and-so who was a popular on Instagram decided he's going to go keto or she's going to go keto, and they magically lost 13 pounds in a week. First thing people have to realize is on a true keto is not what a lot of people follow, which is low fat, low to no carbs low to no protein, low protein, low to no carbs, and high fats. Whereas most people use moderate protein, no carbs, and high fats.
Yeah. Like when I do keto plans, I do low protein. I do no carb so that the trace carb from like nuts and stuff
Yeah,
is like under 30 and then really high fat. People don't realize like all that excess protein gets turned into sugar
correct.
and kicks you right out of ketosis. So I like keto. I've done it with a lot of people. I prepped a guy on keto like
Yep.
completely, and he loved it. Every like couple weeks, we threw in like 900,000 grams of carbs like a day, and just like a really high super compensation day. But other than that, I like keto a lot. I did a project on it too in school. It's really beneficial from a health standpoint as well. It can help with cholesterol. It like that's like a weird thing to say. Like I'm eating all this fat, but it's helping my cholesterol. Some people's like LDLs I've seen like plummet. Like they just like their cholesterol got so much healthier. And then it's really good for cancer patients too, because like tumors like feed off of like glucose.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. When I was heavy into paleo, somebody had written a book about cancer and how carbs, cancer feeds off carbs. But I did want to say that the initial weight drop for a lot of people is just glycogen, your glycogen depletion in water within the system. Obviously, if you don't have proper glycogen in the system, when it gets stored, it's stored as water. And so by depleting that, yes, you're going to have an initial weight drop that looks tremendous. And I think that that's what people see a lot of. Well, he lost 30 pounds in 4 weeks. But, I mean,
He probably
ultimately,
lost 20 pounds of glycogen.
Exactly. Dave Tate, I watched a video with him yesterday where he was working with Justin Harris, and he said and Justin told him he doesn't need a cheat meal. He's got 6 months of glycogen stores in there. So, or 6 weeks, I'm sorry. So obviously, you know the way that those guys eat. But, and then you also have to think of the lifestyle. Can you go, 14, 21 days without consuming carbohydrates? For a lot of people, that's a hard lifestyle to follow.
Really? I feel like a lot of people can.
I found like people can I have a cheat meal this week? But then you get thrown out of ketosis. It takes you 3 days to get back into it. And then you're only into it for 4 days.
Yeah, I feel like people kind of like keto because they can go eat like a burger and cheese and all that gunk stuff. Like, like a lettuce wrap burger at like their favorite restaurant. Like they can eat all that, but like that's why I feel like on a lifestyle end, like it's easier for some people to do keto just because they gravitate towards fattier foods anyways. But also then that's the difference of like keto properly and keto kind of junkly, like picking out the junk foods. And I've seen like clean keto diets with all like healthy fat sources and animal fat sources. And then I've seen like really bad keto diets and like you'll see it in their blood work. Like their blood work's completely different. But I don't know. Like John Meadows, like his cholesterol was a little high, and then that doctor, I forgot his name, told him to add a couple whole eggs to his morning meal, and his cholesterol started coming right back down.
Who would have thought, right?
Yeah, who would have thought? Well, cholesterol, your cholesterol is going to get high. Oh, that's the best, like whole eggs and cholesterol. Okay. Sorry. Let's go to this question. Thoughts on carnivore diet?
I mean, if you really think about it, you're pretty much following the keto diet in essence. I mean, yeah, it's all red meat, so your fat content's higher. Protein's going to be higher, though. Like you said, that you can definitely turn that into sugars. So, but I believe that a diet in that nature can relieve systemic inflammation.
Yeah, I've put a few people on carnivore diets just because they came to me to help them put a carnivore diet together.
Okay.
They wanted to do carnivore. They didn't know how to set it up. So they came to me specifically just to do carnivore. And I read Carnivore MD. He's a doctor who's a big carnivore diet like advocate. And I read his stuff and how he sets it up. So like a carnivore diet, like traditionally, the way they do it, you don't count calories.
No.
You just eat on like you know, if you're like your appetite is like fulfilled and things like that. So it threw me for a loop because like they don't count calories. They you know, there's levels of carnivore diet. Like a level 3 only eats grass-fed red meat. Like level 2 will allow other animals. Level 1 you can have like eggs still. So like they tell you to like start at 1 and then gradually build up to eating just red meat. But I did notice too, like with their programs, like their outlines of stuff, like they all added like lipase throughout the day. They all added like bile acid salts throughout the day, just because all that fat, dude, just digesting all that. Like I heard, like you get diarrhea like crazy, like right in the beginning.
You could even if you added betaine HCl to help digest the protein, I guess may help.
Yeah, dude. No, like the protocol for it was like every meal you had to take like lipase, bile, or ox bile. I'm sorry, ox
Okay.
bile, lipase, betaine HCl, and like pepsin with every meal because you were eating like 1.5 pounds of meat raw, which is like that's a lot of meat.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
1.5 pounds would be like 20. It's 24 ounces. You lose 3 ounces on that? It's like 21 ounces of cooked meat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know. They liked it. They lost weight and stuff, but it just they got overwhelmed by it at one point. Like they just got sick of eating like ribeye every day. I mean, it's hard to say. Like when
I know you think about it, you're like, how?
Like
I could easily eat a ribeye a day.
Oh yeah. Well, like when you're eating like 2 ribeyes a meal.
Yeah, no thanks.
Oh, that's too much. Well, Clark is like that. The guy eats like 7 steaks a day.
I told you he's a different breed.
Dude, when I laid out his diet for him, it was like he was like, "Yeah, I'm eating like 4 fillets for dinner," and I was like, "Okay." But like, and then Clark was raised vegan or vegetarian or vegan. He was raised vegetarian or vegan. I don't remember. And now he's a carnivore.
Wow. That's a story to share for sure.
Yeah, we have to have him on one day. He's a riot. All right. Are you tired of Gretchen Whitmer yet?
No comments.
I think we all are.
Yeah, I'd have to say so.
Okay, that was a good question. All right. Refeed versus cheat meal.
Okay.
What do you like to do and why?
So, obviously, I deal a lot with more lifestyle people, and I'm okay with a cheat meal. I know I described this the other day. I understand a refeed, and I understand why. Because if I calculate your weekly calories, I can input that. So let's say your diet consists of 200 grams of protein, 250 carbs, and 60 fats. And then I give you a refeed, and I'll drop your protein, say, to 180, and then I up your carbs to 400. And I do that in 2 back-to-back days. I know the calories that you're taking in on the refeed, whereas if I give you a cheat meal, hence I'll go back to the Dave Tate video. This guy ate a bloomin' onion. He ate a rack of ribs. He ate white rice. He ate fries. And then in order for the meal not to stop, he snacked on a bag of M&Ms on the way home. And then he snacked on a box of raisins, then ordered an extra large pizza. And then he kept snacking in between because the meal hadn't ended at that point. So at that point, it was a 13,500 calorie influx.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I would throw up everywhere.
I'll plead the fifth.
You would eat it. You would finish it all.
I would easily eat it. That's the
we
sad
were
part.
when we were in Pittsburgh for North Americans last year.
Oh,
Dude, the amount of food you ate made my stomach hurt.
oh, it was easy too. I finished 3/4 of that pizza too after we got back to the hotel.
Dude, we went to that Brazilian steakhouse.
Yep.
Then we went to the ice cream shop.
The dessert place.
And then on the way back, you stopped and bought a pizza.
I got a large pizza. Yep.
And then you finished all of that.
And And then I also had I think it's Cleveland Brownie Company.
Oh yeah, you had those cookies.
Yep, and I had those Cleveland Brownie Company. I had, I think, 8. Oh, I don't think I had the 8, but I think I had 4 of them brownies. Those are probably 1,000 calories or more each.
Yeah, you can eat.
Oh yeah, food's never an issue with me.
One time, Steven Tran, we were competing and we were staying in the same room. He was laying down on the bed after his show. I woke up in the middle of the night and all I saw was wrappers. I forgot what they were. I forgot what he was eating. Oh, Starburst.
Oh,
all I see are wrappers of Starburst all over the floor. In the garbage can right next to the toilet, it was full. I turned and I looked at him. He had fallen asleep with his hand inside of the Starburst thing. There was literally Starburst wrappers on his chest.
my God.
Oh, man. He's another one, dude. He, like, sat down and, like, smashed, like, a full Chicago-style deep dish at Junior Nationals. Like, Chad Caudle was with us, too. He took second there. And we were all eating, and Chad just, like, had his meal. He was chilling. That was it. Steven was eating until he was going to vomit.
Go, go, go.
Oh, no, I can't do that. I got scarred the first time I competed and did that. The second time I competed, I had one meal and I was done.
I can easily throw down 15,000 calories, no problem.
All right. Advice on how to get back the motivation once gyms open back up in Michigan.
I lost you.
Oh. Advice on how to get back the motivation once gyms open back up.
You really have to self-motivate. I mean, I understand that this put a lot of people in a dark area and not being able to train, but and that's, I mean, it's fully understandable, but you really have to remember the whys on why you did this. Why did you start the process? Why do you enjoy the process? And you just have to fit that back within your daily habit once they do open. You know?
Yeah. I think it'll, like, just get yourself to go for like a couple weeks and it'll just all come right back to you.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you were somebody that trained a lot. I feel like that motivation or just the process of going to the gym is gonna, like, motivate you a little bit more, and, like, you're gonna be able to go do things, like, regularly again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from all my friends in different states, it doesn't sound like gyms are, like, insanely, like, locked down, masked, everything's, like, you know, policed inside of it. So I feel like for a lot of people, getting back in the gym is gonna really bring back, like, a sense of normalcy for them.
Yeah.
I know it would for me.
Oh, absolutely. And then that you also can't get discouraged. That's another thing. You know, 90% chance you're not going to be as strong as you were.
Oh, not a chance.
You know, you just have to accept the fact, and you just have to start back at square one and start working your way back up.
Yeah. Oh, back to the refeed thing. I forgot to say anything about it. I'll give cheat meals to lifestyle clients, and I'll give refeeds to competitors.
Yeah.
I'm just a huge carb refeed guy. So I rather overload them on carbs to like signal more leptin. I mean, I got into that on a different video. We'll leave that for another time. But I like to use a lot of carb refeeds and just over the course of a couple of days. And then even like my lifestyle clients, when I give them cheat meals, I'll tell them like, you have a cheat meal. If it's been a while, I'll tell them have whatever you want. But if it hasn't been a while, like maybe a month, I'll tell them like, have a cheat meal, but have like sushi or pasta or just a higher carb like cheat meal versus like an all fat cheat meal.
Correct. Like a lot of people, they want to go get that burger, the burgers and the fries, and then you're getting that burger that's 80-20.
Yeah, and like your fries have more fat than carbs.
Absolutely.
Like everybody gravitates towards pizza. I think pizza is one of the worst cheat meals you can have. It's literally just fat and carbs. There's zero protein in a pizza, like direct protein.
Correct.
Don't get me wrong, there's cheese, but I think it's one of the worst cheat meals to have. That's me, and I know a lot of guys that would agree with that.
I like pizza. I'm not gonna say I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the hard part with a lot of people. I know Kyle will get into, I won't have anything but 2 Five Guys burgers and a fry. So I just let him do his thing, or he'll do a Chipotle burrito. So at that point,
that creates a constant for you guys.
Correct, and that's
his cheat meal, and then that's what he needs, and you know how he responds to that. So I think that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Where can I learn more about refeeds? I don't know. How'd you learn about refeeds?
Honestly, the forums over time. I'm giving you an age or how old I am. I would stay on the forums. Skip Hill was definitely one, an Intense Muscle who I followed. And I just learned, I always ask myself, probably 10, 12 years ago, what's a refeed? What's a refeed? I don't know what a refeed is. And then I know Skip at the time wasn't doing his quote unquote skip loads, but he would break it down like you got to do an influx of carbs here, or you do an influx of fats. It depends on what. And even now, I know people think like his skip loads. I don't know if you're familiar with what he does or not, but he gives you like a 4 to an 8 hour window of eating, and based on the type of body that it is, he gives you either high carbs or high fats, and then you go from there. But I mean, really, honestly, that's how I learned about the refeeds, and that's how I learned about most of the things that have dealt with bodybuilding is through the forums, taking the time late at night reading forums.
Yeah. We touched a little bit on it in school, not too much, but it was there in school. What I learned about refeeds was because I would search on the forums and stuff so much about carb cycling, which in a sense is refeeding.
Correct.
So like, following 3 or 4 really low days and then a high day every week, you're kind of doing that whole concept of refeeding.
Correct.
So like that was a big one. And then I read a lot about it in, whose book was it? I forgot whose book it was. That'll come to me. But it was a bodybuilder who wrote a book on carb like just dieting in general. I forgot who wrote it. I don't know. And then there's Dr. Scott Stevenson's book, Be Your Own Bodybuilding Coach.
Yep, that's a great book.
The best book I ever bought. I have a hard copy of it, and I have
a highlighter. I want to say half of it's in highlighter. Yep.
It's a great book.
Yeah.
Really good book. Dr. Scott, he's plugging you right now. It's a really awesome book. I think anybody that is looking to get into coaching, nutrition stuff, just wants to learn more, that's a really good book. And then Lane Norton had a good book too. It was
Contest Prep one?
Yeah, I forgot what it's called.
I had it, and then the app that you had to download it on, it didn't allow me to carry it over, which I was kind of
The
upset
complete,
about.
the complete contest prep guide.
Yep. He
The
explains
first,
when
the
to do
first book
cardio.
the first book I ever read, even before I went to school, I was still doing like the dental school stuff. Eric Helms wrote a book called the Muscle and Strength Pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
He had a nutrition one and a training one. This nutrition book is unbelievable. And oh, look at that! I had it open. I literally had it open to single day refeeds.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because you can always go back to these things and look and refresh your memory and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, we know a lot of stuff, but it's always good to look back and things.
Well,
So
yeah.
that's why I like having these. Did I lose you?
Where are we at?
We could just touch on this real quick. Loose skin, does it affect body fat percentage? No,
No, not at all.
no, it doesn't. Loose skin is
Some
just,
people,
yeah.
you have it. There's not much you can do about it. You're not going to be judged poorly, in my opinion, because of it.
Yeah, because it's part of the process.
Correct.
Peak week. The guy just said peak week. It's always fascinated me. I think peak week can either be overcomplicated by unnecessary means, or it could be just very simple and laid out properly. I think one of the biggest issues with peak week is trying to plan your peak week on Sunday or Saturday. A peak week needs to be day by day. You can't pre-plan a peak week and just forget about it and think like, okay, if I do this Monday, do this Tuesday, do this Wednesday, do this Thursday, Saturday, I'll look. You're going to need adjustments in between all of that. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people overcomplicate peak week. I'll be honest. I think they think it's going to be a magical week. Can you make, if you're not already ready in peak week, you're not going to magically get ready in 5 to 7 days. If you start the process of a water load, and then you hit it right, and then you start to pull water gradually, yeah, you're going to dry out tremendously. But with food, it all depends. I mean, everybody's different, because what if you have to make weight?
Yeah.
What if you're right on the cusp of weight? You can't change, and I can't start carving you up on Wednesday if you got to weigh in on a Friday night. And you're right sitting. Let's say if you're trying to vie for a light heavyweight and you're sitting at 200 pounds on Wednesday, I can't ultimately add carbs, because carbs add water.
Yeah, like I had a client do North Americans last year, Tarek. Dude, like he lives in Jersey. On his drive to Pittsburgh, I had him stopping, getting out of the car, standing on a scale, and weighing himself.
Yep.
Like, just because like he was like, I think he made weight by a half a pound.
Yep.
And
Mine was a quarter. I made it by a quarter pound at North Americans.
Oh yeah.
I thought I was over because my scale still said 200 pounds.
Yeah. So like, there's a perfect example. Like, you can't pre-plan that. You have to take it every day by day.
Yep.
I think it's overcomplicated always. Some of these guys could literally just follow their normal diet and go in and get a pump and be fine to get on stage. But they try to do special things that don't need to be done.
And then stress gets the better of them 90% of the time. They come on show day, and then, it's done, it's over with, and then they eat like garbage the night, that night. They wake up and they look tremendous.
Yeah, because their stress is
correct. Cortisol response.
Their show's all over, and they have nothing to worry about. Matt Porter said this a long time ago. He was like, "Why do you think you guys look so good the next day? Because you guys aren't stressed out anymore."
Yep.
Which is a big thing. Well, that can get us right into the cortisol stuff.
Yep.
So on Facebook, someone said, I like how you touched base on cortisol. Maybe talk about some things you can do in prep to curb cortisol and stress. And then Dave Barry said, and or speak on the positives of cortisol and its importance in the morning, as well as why you generally shouldn't train before your bedtime.
Okay. So I'll take the first part. So
Yeah, you just did the first part.
So ways to combat high cortisol, obviously, like we taught on my lab work, the previous, right before I started this diet phase, I was sitting at, I was just reverted back to it. I was 19.5. Now, mind you, I shouldn't be that high, but we also talked that I'm very insulin resistant, first off. So that's going to also raise cortisol levels. So how did I combat it? Well, I combat it with it's basically a product that is 800 grams of phosphatidylserine. And then I also take, I don't know the milligrams of ashwagandha KSM-66. And that seemed to lower it. I haven't gotten labs, but obviously the progress has been phenomenal.
Yeah, I've used all those, and I've also used Rhodelia.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that it's in there. Which one is it? It's Morphocalm. There we go.
Morphocalm?
Yeah, from Morphogen.
Yeah, I've used all those, and Rhodelia, that really reduced it a lot. I've also, what else have I used? No, I think that's it. I think during prep, to reduce cortisol, you might need to be taking a supplement to help, just because it's going to be hard to like curb the stress level, because as your show gets closer, you're just naturally going to get more stressed out, like about your look and about everything like that. So I feel like keeping something steady that's controlling your cortisol is going to help a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then Dave talked about like cortisol. Why is it important what are some positives about cortisol? Its importance in the morning, and why you generally shouldn't train before bedtime. I mean, we talked about before we got on, cortisol like helps mobilize free fatty acids. It helps with gluconeogenesis. So it helps with a few metabolic processes, but it also causes like protein catabolism. It could cause insulin resistance. It can do some of those things. But Dave's comment about the importance in the morning, well, we were talking about that study we read on if cortisol is decreased in the morning, you don't have as much plasma-free fatty acid turnover because your cortisol isn't at its normal in the morning, and it's lower. So you're not gonna have as much free fatty acids being broken down and free into the blood. And then why not training at night?
Well, I think a lot of it will have to do that you're going to try and sleep right after you train. So if you train late at night, you're releasing the endorphins. More than likely, you're going to want to go home and you want to consume your carbohydrates post workout. Now, most people, and for me especially, my highest consumption of carbohydrates is post workout. Mostly, it's a moderate protein, high carb, no fat. So yes, it can release serotonin and help you get into a deeper sleep, but too much is never a good thing either. So yeah. I think it could also impede on how you're going to sleep.
Yeah, so a reduction in early morning rise in cortisol leads to a significantly decrease differences for non-esterified fatty acids and glycerol. So you would have decreased hormone-sensitive lipase, which is the enzyme that starts the breakdown of like the fat. just in simple terms. And then you would have another decrease in adipose lipoprotein lipase, which is also another enzyme that's key for lipolysis. So a reduction in your morning cortisol would slow those processes down. And so cortisol, I feel like gets a bad rap, but there's a lot of benefits that come to cortisol.
I only have, I know we talked about that one study where it actually talked about morning and night training, but unfortunately it was only on cycling. So if you're obviously riding a bike, you're doing more aerobic activity than anaerobic.
Yeah, so, but what did it say?
Here, hold on, let me go back to it. Morning and evening exercise. We got an abstract, yeah. Physical fitness components. Regular exercise training is one of the few strategies that have been strictly adapted in healthy individuals and athletes. However, time-dependent exercise has different outcomes based on exercise type, duration, hormone, and hormone adaptation. We'll briefly, obviously, it has an effect on circadian rhythm. Let me go to evening exercise. So resistance training on the squat jumps, higher. Researchers have reported that evening exercise is more effective than morning exercise. This is on resistance training. And one study showed a significantly improvement in peak muscle power in well-trained cyclists, obviously, than in the morning. So that would make sense, especially if you have less fuel or food in your body.
I was going to say, I feel like that has so much to do with food.
Correct, and that's kind of where I would sit on that. Exercise participants. To understand better the time of day effect on muscle strength, muscle effects on muscular strength responses, future studies should assess the main physiological variations following resistance exercise adaptation. So they don't really go into complete detail.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can say strongly that a healthy level of cortisol is required to have like optimal lipolysis.
Yes.
Too much cortisol could cause insulin resistance. And with insulin resistance, you might be running high blood sugars all day, and you might be utilizing more of your blood glucose for energy rather than free fatty acids for energy, because it's way faster to make energy with glucose than it is a free fatty acid.
Yes.
That's why as our heart rates climb when we train, our bodies shift right to carbs and glycogen, because it's so much faster to break down and turn into energy than beta oxidation and getting fat to turn into ATP. So that's why, like, now me and you are sitting here, we're burning way more fat than we are carbs because our heart rate is steady. We don't need that energy right now. And then just so many other things have to do with that. Like you increase like heart rate increases, so energy demand's high, AMPK is high. AMPK stimulates phosphorylase. Phosphorylase stimulates glycogen breakdown. It's just a high levels of heart rate and activity. It's a lot of carb metabolism.
Yes.
All right. Oh, there was that one question about the guy, like what separates the guy that takes it to the next level and the average guy in the gym?
All right. I talk about this quite frequently. So basically, if you take an average guy, even if he looks like he can hang with the bigger guys within a gym, more than likely that there's going to be a few things that are going on here. He has way more body fat than he leads off to be, first and foremost. He's softer than you probably think. Secondly, you're going to see year to year, he doesn't make many changes. Okay. So basically, he's missing out on very, very important points that are coming along in his regimen. his training may be there. He may train like an animal, but his diet's piss poor.
Yeah.
You know, when you can align all factors, like we talked about, I think in the first podcast, how it wasn't until I aligned all those factors, taking an off season extremely serious, you know, only going off my plan when told to, you know, and that's when I saw that 14, 15 pound increase within a year. You know, I mean, and plus obviously genetics plays a role, but you can still turn a crappy set of genetics if you diligently follow a plan and you're in there every day.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it has to do, number one, with nutrition. And then number two, as you get more advanced with your nutrition, training. If you're properly programming training and taking necessary rest and stuff like that, I think that has a big thing to do with that next level, like the guy that's the average gym goer versus the next level physique kind of guy.
That's another thing that you said, that is frequency. Some of these guys like to train 6-7 days a week, and that's not conducive to your goals.
No, I mean, if you're training 6-7 days a week, are you really training?
Correct.
Like, you should be so sore and exhausted and dead that you shouldn't be able to physically train 7 days a week.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, obviously we've talked that if I need it to burn the calories, like if somebody's in a prep and we're in those final stages, yeah, you may be training 6 days a week, but that's the only way we're going to get the calories off.
Yeah. I mean, I also, too, pertaining to bodybuilding and resistance training, I feel like this is very conclusive. But, like, I know there's a lot of trainers, like athletic trainers, that do cardiovascular main movements and HIIT training, stuff like that. They'll train 7 days a week, but those 7 days, there's not one day they're redlining and going 100%.
And
if you can maintain your rest, you can train more. Overtraining isn't training. It's lack of rest and food.
Yes. Always, you know, I mean, we look at, you only, you know, I hear it all that you only want me training 4 days a week. Yep. Why? Because you need the proper rest. You know, if you are, I mean, you know as well as I do, if you get done with that heavy final set and you're pushing to the max, you know, one of two things typically occur with me is I'm either I'm gonna lose my cookies, or I'm extremely out of breath to the point where you think I may pass out.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying that people don't train hard, but I am saying that we're taking ourselves to a very, very dark and deep place at that point. You know, and to be able to come back day in and day out from that, it's not doable at all.
It's not doable at all.
No.
Let's see. Metabolic adaptation and how to properly reverse and increase maintenance calories. This is our last question.
Okay.
So I talked about this in that video I did a couple of weeks, last week?
Yeah, last week.
Metabolic adaptation is just your body's response to your calories and the weight change. So if you started at 2,000 calories and you didn't lose a pound, you stayed here steady, you took away 500 a day, and you started losing a pound a week, and then all of a sudden you stopped losing, that's metabolic adaptation. Your body had to shift energy because it doesn't want to keep losing. It's a survival mechanism of the body. So then how do you properly reverse and increase maintenance calories? I don't know what he means by that, but what I do is if somebody started at 170 pounds and ended at 130 pounds or 140 pounds, reversing wise, I would take maintenance. You don't take maintenance from what you were.
No.
You take maintenance from what you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can either go right to current maintenance and then start adding back slowly, or you can just add back slowly from the get-go. One thing I always do in the beginning is add back one food source. Mm-hmm. So I'll only add back carbs, or I'll only add back fats for the first few weeks. because I'm giving the body just one energy source right now.
Yeah.
That it's going to utilize that more and store it less, because we're like a sponge for body fat after a show.
Absolutely.
Or after heavy dieting.
Yeah.
John Jewett was who I got that from. I followed his blog for one of his competitions. And when he started his reverse dieting, he went over everything he was doing. And he's like, I'm only giving back my body one energy source. So he was only giving back carbs. And then just utilizing that, then he slowed titrating fats in. And I mean, I think he's a registered dietitian or something like that. Or no, I'm sorry. He has a master's in nutrition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what you said, there's also other calculators. They have some really, really good calculators out there where you're only calculating lean body mass. So if you have the means to take your body fat, obviously no method is 100% correct. We already know that. But you can even take your lean body mass at the time, and then you can add back that way. Too many times, obviously we see after a post show, guys eat like total a-holes, and then they're 30, 40 pounds up in 2 weeks, and it can easily happen because your body does want to be a sponge. It's that survival mechanism that comes along with it. The cortisol raises, the leptin and the ghrelin get all screwed up. Your whole body is out of whack hormonally.
Yeah.
And you have to slowly take it back into maintenance. Even if you come out of a show or a diet phase and we put on, say, 5 pounds within the first week, but then we maintain that 5 pounds, for the next week, and maybe we go up 0.2, whatever it is, then that you're in the proper, you can start adding back. Also, I like to use blood sugar. You're very insulin sensitive coming out of it. Your body can accept the carbs very well. However, you come to the point where that blood sugar will raise in the morning. And then once you get it back down into the 80s or low, high 70s, then I say it's time to start adding more food.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't use blood sugar just because a lot of people don't want to do it.
Right.
And then I'll do like, if they start losing weight, I'll start getting a little bit heavier on the adding calories back. I usually never add calories back and give a cheat in the same week. It's just too much calories at once. Like over the course of 7 days, I increased from their normal and I added a cheat meal on top. Sometimes it's too much and you can get some extra fat gain from that. But then that comes to the person. I mean, if they're comfortable with getting a little fluffy, or if they want to stay extremely lean, that's going to determine how hard of a reverse you do.
Correct. The other thing is cardio. Like some people, I'll cut it in half, but then you also have to realize that by cutting it in half, you're still, now that calorie intake, you've already increased your net calories.
Yeah, just by your expenditure went down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then usually they'll take a week off from the gym, or just do pump stuff. Not too much. But yeah, no, that is it today. Those are good questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really awesome. So thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back next week. We're going to have a special guest on. We're going to keep it a surprise, though. See ya.